Hey everyone, and welcome to the 5 Bytes Podcast. I'm your host, Rory Monahan, and the podcast, as always, is brought to you by my sponsors. That includes Numescent, the inventors of the first and only cloud-native container management platform for Windows desktops, and also brought to you by Master Packager, an application packaging software that helps you build packages that end users love, enterprises want, and the Windows OS needs. If you enjoy the show each week, you have these awesome sponsors to thank. And now for some news. Microsoft announced recently that Windows 11 version 25H2 is now available. Existing users will be able to update to the new version of Windows 11 using an enablement package or EKB if they're on 24H2. This means that updating from version 24H2 to 25H2 should be quick without any major changes, which is something I covered on the previous episode of the podcast a few weeks ago. They're saying that this one should be pretty seamless because they've kind of streamlined the update process from 24H2 to 25H2. However, if you are on Windows 11 version 22H2 or 23H2, you will be getting a full system upgrade, which will take more time and also introduce some of the nuances and potential bugs or quirks. Microsoft said version 25H2 includes some significant advancements in build and runtime vulnerability detection coupled with AI-assisted secure coding. And they say they've designed 25H2 to address and mitigate security threats in adherence to a robust security development lifecycle, policy, and requirements. They say this version is also leaner due to removing legacy features such as PowerShell version 2 and Windows Management Instrument command line, which are also things I highlighted when those were removed from the 25H2 preview. If you would like to get this as soon as you can, if it hasn't shown up for you already, you can go to your settings and Windows Updates and toggle on the Get the Latest Updates as soon as they're available option. Otherwise, you might notice it might be a few days before it presents for you. Also, it appears the ISO is available to download right now if you'd like to go that way. And the usual ancillary pieces like some of the group policy stuff and other documentation has also been released, updated for 25H2. In an interesting move, Microsoft has confirmed that it is making access to Windows 10's Extended Security Update program completely free for an additional year until October 14, 2026 for regions in the European Economic Area. This change means users will no longer be required to sync their PC settings to the cloud via a Microsoft account for free access to extended security updates throughout the next 12 months. So if you're in Europe and you're relying on kind of one of the get-arounds to get those extended security updates for free, that no longer applies to you. You're just going to be able to get the extended security updates. The change comes after consumer defense organizations like Euroconsumers challenged Microsoft's decision to gate access to the ESU program behind conditions that benefited the company financially under the Digital Markets Act. So it seems like those pesky European regulators have bought consumers in Europe an extra year. Of course, if you're not in the European Economic Area, this does not apply, and you're still going to want to use the backup solution, use Windows 365 Cloud PCs, or register with your 365 to get the extended security updates, or just get your butt off Windows 10. Speaking of Europe, the European Commission is investigating potential anti-competitive practice in aftermarket services that SAP provides for its on-premises ERP software. The Commission's preliminary investigation relates to 4 concerning practices attributed to SAP. This includes requiring customers to buy the same type of support for all SAP on-premises ERP software, preventing mix and match with other providers, blocking termination of support for unused licenses, forcing customers to pay for unwanted services, extending the initial license term during which termination of support is not possible, and charging reinstatement and back maintenance fees equal to what customers would have paid if they had never left SAP. That last one is really underhanded, in my opinion. If proven true, These practices restrict competition from third-party support providers and impose unfair trading conditions on SAP customers, according to the European Commission. I guess this is another one we'll have to keep an eye on to see what comes of it. According to a report by bleepycomputer.com, Microsoft has said that it has partially resolved a known issue that caused problems when trying to play DRM-protected video in Blu-ray, DVD, and digital TV applications. The bug affected Windows 11 24H2 devices, and it triggers freezing, black screens, and other issues after installing the August preview update or later. While it should be fixed for some instances, Microsoft did warn that some applications using DRM for digital audio might continue to experience problems. So again, Microsoft has said they've only addressed this one partially, which is unfortunate. So if you continue to have problems, I'm guessing you can expect a fix later on, but hopefully it has been resolved for you if you've been experiencing this issue. I saw some reports of people being affected by the recent SMB version 1 connection issues caused by the September Windows updates. The issue was reported on this podcast a couple of weeks ago, but unfortunately it seems that some enterprises have legacy systems or legacy applications that leverage SMB version 1 that they just cannot get rid of, and sadly this is kind of the cost of being reliant on that dated technology. It seems like there's no huge rush to fix these issues when they do occur because you've kind of been warned. But at the same time, if you have a legacy application and, I don't know, maybe the developer's dead, for example, and you can't just get it redeveloped by somebody else in short order, you're kind of in the lurch. But yeah, if you're using SMB1, I mean, think I've said it on the podcast multiple times over the last 5 or 6 years. You need to start working on getting off of that as soon as possible. In a previous life, I leveraged ExtraHop to actually go out and detect any traffic that was using SMB1 and report the servers and clients that were communicating over it. So something like that might help you identify it if you're not familiar, but chances are, if you're running into problems, you already know where the problems lie and you know what is using it. Mozilla has released version 143.0.3 of Firefox, which is a small update just to address several issues with the browser. So if you've been having issues with Firefox, you'll want to get updated to this version. Microsoft has announced a preview of a new feature which will allow administrators to invite external people to utilize Azure Virtual Desktop resources. This should be a great feature for like contractor scenarios, or in the case of an organization that maybe acquires a smaller organization and you need to provide access maybe while you're transitioning and onboarding them to have their own like native Entra ID accounts within your organization. There are several requirements and limitations, however, at least in this preview state that Microsoft is warning about, such as the session host must be running Windows 11 Enterprise with the 2025-09 cumulative updates for Windows 11 version 24H2 or later. The session host must be Entra joined. Single sign-on must be configured for the host pool. And the external identity must connect from the Windows app on Windows or a web browser. Some of the limitations include FSLogix is not yet supported. External identities can connect to a pooled resource, but it will create a new user profile on each session host that they sign into. Device configuration policies assigned to the external identity won't be applied to the user on the session host either via Intune device configuration policies. Instead, assign device configuration policies to the device as kind of a workaround. The feature is only available in the Azure public cloud, not the government cloud or Azure operated by 21 ViNet. Cross clouds users are not supported. There's also certain limitations for token protection for external identities, and Microsoft has shared a link if you want to read more about those limitations, as well as external identities can't authenticate to on-premises resources using Kerberos or NTLM protocols. I think that one kind of makes sense, and I'd imagine they're not going to get around that one in any way. So yeah, quite a few limitations. The biggest one probably for me would be FSLogix in an AVD environment. But other than that, this is a very welcome feature. Canadian airline WestJet is informing customers that the cyber attack disclosed back in June compromised their sensitive information, including passports and ID documents. WestJet specified that no credit card or debit card numbers, expiry dates, CVV numbers, or user passwords were compromised. But personally, I would think passports and ID documents being compromised is a major concern. The airline noted that recipients of the notification should inform other individuals who may have flown under the same booking number as them, as their information may have been exposed to. WestJet states that it's still trying to determine the full scope of the incident, which is unfortunate given the incident happened back in June. But I guess if you're a WestJet customer, watch this space, and I guess maybe you are not even aware of, if you are a WestJet customer, if they have partner airlines and you happen to be on a WestJet flight but booked through someone else. I didn't see if that is also an avenue where your data might have been compromised. I'm hoping they notified everyone who is possibly impacted. However, it sounds like they don't know the full scope, so maybe not everyone has been contacted yet. Oof. What a cluster. A newly discovered DLL hijacking vulnerability in Notepad++ could allow attackers to execute arbitrary code on a victim's machine, according to cybersecuritynews.com. Tracked as CVE-2025-56383, the flaw exists in version 8.8.3 and potentially affects all installed versions of the software. The vulnerability enables a local attacker to achieve code execution by planting a malicious DLL file in a location where the application will load it. This type of attack undermines the integrity of the application and can be used to establish persistence or escalate privileges on a compromised system. An attacker could place a malicious DLL with the same name as a legitimate one in a directory, which looks like it's the plugins directory, that is then searched before the actual library's location. When the user launches the application, the malicious DLL is loaded and executed instead of the intended one. There unfortunately is no patch as of the time of this recording. As my buddy and colleague Ryan suggested, the major risk here is going to be if you have users who are administrators. I think that's probably a big risk given the application. Notepad++ is used by a lot of IT experts or like server administrators and storage administrators, etc., who may indeed be administrators on their systems. They shouldn't be, mind you. Their role does not suggest that they need to be administrators on their machines, but a lot of smaller organizations continue to allow these IT people and these techie folk to be local administrators, which is a terrible idea, and this is why. On Monday, Anthropic released Claude Sonnet version 4.5, a new AI language model that the company calls its most capable model to date, with improved coding and computer use capabilities. The company also revealed Claude Code version 2, a command-line AI agent for developers using the Claude Agent SDK, which is a tool developers can use to build their own AI coding agents. Anthropic says it has witnessed Sonnet 4.5 working continuously on the same project for more than 30 hours on complex multi-step tasks, though the company did not provide specific details about the tasks. So, if you choose to believe them. Personally, I do. It's not beyond the realms of possibility. In the past, agentic models have been known to typically lose coherence over long periods of time as errors accumulate and context windows fill up. In the past, Anthropic has mentioned that previous Claude version 4 models have played Pokemon for over 24 hours or refactored code for 7 hours. So getting up to 30 hours for multi-steps seems like a pretty big achievement. Anthropic added code execution and file creation directly within conversations for users of Cloud's web interface and dedicated apps with this release. And also along those lines, users can now generate spreadsheets, slides, and documents without leaving the chat interface. So that's a pretty nice one. I probably need to get back to testing some of these Gen AI solutions with their native web UIs and apps. I think I mentioned a long time ago on this podcast I've been using kind of aggregator services like Anything LLM, which maybe hinders my experience, but yeah. I'm ranting. On Tuesday, Google rolled out a new AI tool in Drive for desktop that it says will pause syncing to limit ransomware damage. They suggest the model has been trained on millions of real-world ransomware samples and looks for signs that may indicate ransomware, such as attempts to encrypt or corrupt large numbers of files, and then pauses syncing of affected files, helping prevent wider spread of the attack. Drive for Desktop is Google's sync app for Windows and Mac OS that keeps local files in step with cloud storage. The Drive for Desktop tool then sends an email alert or desktop notification to the Drive user, guiding them to restore their files via just a few clicks. TheRegister.com reported that the recovery capability works across traditional software, including Windows and Office. Plus, the model continuously analyzes file changes and pulls in threat intelligence from VirusTotal, which at least in theory should help it detect even new and novel malware variants and attack behaviors. The new capability is turned on by default, but administrators can disable detection and restoration for end users if needed. Admins can also receive alerts in the admin console for any detected ransomware activity. This is now available in open beta, and Google says these ransomware detection, alerting, and file restoration capabilities are included in most workspace commercial plans at no extra cost. Consumers also receive file restoration at no additional cost. It'll be interesting to see if Microsoft does something similar with OneDrive. It is a pretty nifty feature. I mean, as they suggest themselves, though, it's not going to stop attacks outright. It can only detect when an attack is occurring and maybe provide some sort of mitigation, but those attackers have still got in and they're still trying to do nasty things. But now, this episode's scripts, tricks, and tips. First up this week, the awesome VirtualExpo was held last Friday, and I saw in an email notification that the on-demand recordings of all the sessions is now available. And lastly, if you're going to be anywhere near the Netherlands or pretty much continental Europe, because the train system is pretty good, why not swing by Utrecht and the AppManagEvent, which will be held next Friday, which I believe is October 10th. And if you do happen to be there, swing by the Numescent booth or check out my session that I'll be doing around some of Numescent's solutions for cloud paging AI and enhancing desktop security with application containers. But hey, that's it for this episode of the podcast. I'll catch you next week.